Good morning, folks. Back with you. Coffee time with Almeida here, Wednesday, April 22nd. Holly, sorry, Doctor Reverend Holly Norwick is on with us today. We're going to be speaking about virtual worship. Holly, welcome to Coffee Time with Almeida.
Thanks so much. I'm so grateful to be part of the show.
Yeah, this is awesome. And now you're my first guest that I actually don't know like physically, personally, and we met through some friends, which is the whole purpose of the show, I guess, right?
Yes,
So
that's awesome.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Holly, and I personally have 4 kids, and I live in Somerset currently. I serve, which will be part of the show, I serve the First Christian Congregational Church here in Swansea, Massachusetts. But I also now serve the Community Church of Honolulu at the same time out in the Nu'uanu area of Honolulu on the main island of Oahu.
And now you're from Hawaii.
That's my home.
Okay.
My childhood when I was young was in Minnesota, but my formative home years I count as Hawaii. So I'm pretty excited to be on the path home at this point.
All right, I like it. So tell us a little bit about how the coronavirus has affected worshiping.
Well, we were in a natural transition to begin with. I was actually finishing my time here with Swansea and beginning a relationship with the church in Honolulu when the pandemic hit, which sort of left 2 churches sort of up in the air with what to do about ministerial leadership. And so what we did pretty quickly is, in concert with the leadership here in Swansea, we made an agreement for me to continue serving them for the tenure of the advisory or whenever until they reopen, to be able to gather together normally, if you will, whatever that's going to look like. And at the same time, with leadership at the Community Church of Honolulu, because they didn't have a pastor there. And because everything is now virtual for worship, we did something pretty bold and began our relationship as pastor and community virtually. So that's sort of how that balance, if you will, came about. It was because of the pandemic.
So tell us about virtual worship. How are you doing it?
So personally, I and both church staff are working with me in the same way. We have chosen to pre-record our worship. Lots of my colleagues do an awesome job doing it live. We've decided to pre-record because both of our congregations are usually very participatory in the worship. And this sort of allows for that. For example, for the church here in Swansea, the brilliant director of music ministry here is Danielle Avery Damaris. And now that we've been put in place, she actually records the music on an organ that she has in her home. And her wife often does the vocals. But she also has the ability to create the music and send it to, say, my daughter who sings, or anybody else in the congregation, and they can sing. And I can include people who I can't be next to actually in the worship, like we did when we served. And we're exploring those ideas. The same is true for the church in Honolulu, though I've only met some of those folks one time. If you take a peek at the online worship for Easter, you'll see a brilliant young lady named Amy who sent me this beautiful piece of music that she played and sang at the same time as a musical offering. So she and I were in the same worship, and we are 7,000 miles apart.
Oh, that's so cool. And it sounds like you're creating something brand new too.
Yeah, neither church has ever done anything like this before. The closest thing that the Honolulu church has come to is sort of putting their, sometimes their musical offerings from the kids or their sermons live from the inside of the sanctuary, sort of statued, but this is a whole different ballgame. This is creating an altar in your home. This is working with the 2 different directors of music in their own rights to bring the music together. The gentleman in Hawaii, Hari Bayani, who is also very talented in creating images or behind his music, he actually does it differently than the person here. Danielle sends me video of herself and her wife, whereas Hari Bayani sends me himself singing, but he creates a movie in his own right with images and the words on top. So they have both very different flares. but both work perfectly with the congregations that they serve.
It seems like you're getting to bring out a lot of creativity in these folks.
It is. It's so much fun. It's actually some things we probably wouldn't be able to do in worship. We actually have some creativity to do. The church in Swansea doesn't use projection or anything in the front of the sanctuary. It's all in-house. And so to be able to use some of the things that technology can offer for visual and audio is really cool.
So how do people access this?
So there's a couple ways to do it. I always put the links up on both of the websites. They're not the exact same service. You can't really do one service for two such different communities,
Sure.
but there are lots of similarities between them. So when I finish working with Danielle here and any of the special parts that some people want to send in, I create the movie through iMovie, through the Apple application iMovie. That's the way I've chosen to do it. And I upload it to my YouTube channel designated for the Swansea Church. And I put that link through, we blast it through the email, we put it on the Facebook, and it's, if you're a subscriber to that particular, or my particular one for here, you can see them at any time. And what we've tried to do to create a little bit of familiarity in such a change-worthy space is we encourage people who can to actually watch it at the same time we would otherwise go to church. So a lot of times we're clicking on for Swansea about 10 o'clock in the morning, and we sort of worship together in our own homes by watching it at the same time. And then I have immediately following a Facebook live coffee hour, much like yours here, only a very brief period, followed by a Zoom coffee hour, and anybody can join in. So we actually really have worship and coffee hour, both for Swansea and for the church in Honolulu, to try to keep some sense of what it did feel like to meet through all these changes.
And more engagement. It seems that you're actually getting more engagement, especially if you can actually do some not one-on-one, but like these group sessions after the church part is over, you know, and you get to talk to all these folks that you wouldn't normally, you probably see them and like shake their hand or give them a hug in service, right? But you're actually don't get to have a full-on conversation with them, right?
Yeah, coffee hour in person is a little more difficult to have in concert with folk, just because I might be moving from table to table. There are people who are talking with one another. Zoom, as you've experienced and others who have learned it, you actually do get to talk with everybody at the same time. So it's really.
Sorry, so you're using iMovie, you're using Zoom, you're using YouTube, you're using Facebook. Those are your tools.
Those are the main ones I'm using. Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. So tell me about, you told me something really interesting about how it's being broadcast to seniors in Swansea.
Yeah, so the coolest thing happened a few weeks ago here in Swansea. Adam Kitchen, our fantastic person for the Swansea Cable Network, he contacted me after hearing that I made these worships available, and he asked if he could have them and put them up on the Swansea Cable, which was a perfect plan for those who we were having a difficult time getting the worship to. There's going to be, by nature, a subsect of society that doesn't have access to virtual stuff. Not just because of age, but because of lack of technology, lack of internet, all kinds of reasons people can't see these things. And so he had a brilliant idea to sort of bridge the gap, because most people, even if they don't have a computer or internet, they might have local TV. So we were able to share that with the local folks who are able to watch it on TV. I'm hoping to work on a connection to do the same locally in Hawaii.
Is it on a certain time on the cable?
I believe they broadcast our Sunday worship services at Sunday morning. I think he also puts up some, I think we were on Friday, Saturday, Sunday at some point in time, but if you go to Swansea Cable, you'll see the lineup. You can watch it live, or you can watch it at any time by watching.
That's so cool. I'll make sure we add that link to your page so we can share it out with folks. I still know a lot of people who live in Swansea, so
nice, good.
So you're living out in Massachusetts right now?
I do.
What do you think? How do you think it's going out there? Are people doing okay?
I think we're doing okay. I know we just got word that the governor closed the schools for the year.
Hmm.
The governor also said that non-emergent care daycare facilities are closed until July. And that impacts me because I have a little one in the Early Minds childcare who are one of those places that cannot reopen. What that might suggest is that we're looking at least that amount of time before we can even think about coming together for worship.
Sure.
And so we are having a meeting together with leadership tomorrow to talk about what that might mean. But we sort of hunkered down for the long haul. My music director and I have looked ahead almost through August about services, just to have things prepared and to get people involved. And for the longevity of being able or being unable rather to gather in person, the the blessing is I'm able to actually be with both of these congregations in that
Sure.
way.
And is there what kind of financial burden is put on the two congregations since they can't have
Wow.
people get together in the church, right? How are you dealing with that?
Right. Well, like many of my colleagues are trying to encourage people to offer their donations and offerings still if they're able. We're totally aware that many of us have lost our income because of all of this. So we've transitioned to being able to donate online. I'm speaking for the Swansea Church, to donate online. If you go to their website or drop it in the mailbox, the office manager still comes in once or twice a week to be able to do some of the things that we need to do with regard to mass emailing and doing and counting the offerings that come in. But the building itself is completely closed down to all but staff.
All right.
The community church in Honolulu is similar. We're trying to figure out how to encourage people to continue to send in, to maybe transition to an online giving place. But the great thing that many people may have heard of is there's a lot of banks, and I'm not sure if it's I would have to ask the office manager if it's a federally invited sort of initiative, but for churches and other small businesses, there's this it's called a PPL loan, which if you qualify, there's a bank, there's several banks involved, will actually loan you the amount you need to pay your personnel in full for a couple of months. And then if you do use all of the money to pay your personnel, you don't have to pay it back. It's immediately forgiven. So it's more a grant.
Okay.
And so we went through Bay Coast, and we are so grateful to have just learned that we've received this grant.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So the staff here have been taken care of by the grant. And so that's one of the biggest outputs of churches is their staff, because we are nonprofit. So most of what we get in help make the staff do what we do.
Mm.
And then the rest of it is we have a giant building, lots of grounds. I mean, imagine the things that happen. But those are some of the things. I know the Community Church of Honolulu is also trying to get that grant for their staff. So there's a lot out there for churches and small businesses to try to get some help financially, but across the board, as you might imagine, we're seeing some struggle and some suffering there financially.
Yeah, I mean everybody's hurting, right? And it's donating is gonna be really hard right now for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does it look like after we get back? I think virtual worship is here to stay.
Oh, it has to. I can't imagine that we would go. I don't think there is such a thing as back to normal, quite frankly. I know that people are itching to get back into the sanctuary and give actual hugs to one another. I think what we have to remember is that by being sort of shoved into this new place of worship, we have had the capability of worshiping with so many more people than would otherwise come to our building. I think we have to remember that for those of us who haven't sort of ventured into the virtual world, we're sort of missing out on a giant population of people who might really want to worship with us in this way. And as we were talking about in one Zoom, when we think about maybe inviting a friend to church, sometimes it seems a little intimidating, right? To just walk into a church you've never been to, especially if you're a little unsure about what you think about it in the first place. This is probably the most non-aggressive, easiest way to actually worship, right? There's no threat here. You can shut it off at any time. It's not the same as getting up and walking out if you don't like it, right? But right
Yeah.
now we could, so we had an initiative going this past week at the Swansea church, invite a friend, which only means invite them to participate in the worship. And if they want to have coffee, jump in on the Zoom. How
Yeah.
much easier is that than coming to a whole different building, being surrounded by people in the present? Some of that is really overwhelming to a lot of people.
Oh, sure.
So,
I would find that overwhelming. A whole room of people you don't know, and everybody probably knows each other, and all of the things you're thinking about. And I imagine too that you probably have folks tuning in that aren't just in Swansea.
Oh, absolutely. They're all over the place. I've got, the people who participate that I can see are viewing are from multiple states. And those that I don't know who are popping in are just exponentially more. But we get sort of an idea when you see how many people have watched the YouTube. Like if you're looking on YouTube and how many people have watched your show, there's lots and lots and lots more people who have watched the online worship than would fit in our sanctuary. That's
and
really cool.
and right now, so you can't leave your house,
Except for this office.
right?
Yes.
And just so if you want to hang out with if you want to go to church with your mom, you can't do that. But you could technically go to church together.
Yes.
Online.
Yes. And that's actually an initiative in the community church in Honolulu that we've started, because we have there's a good handful of folks who just don't have this technology. And the intergenerational culture in Hawaii allows for an invitation for just that thing. So let's say Auntie goes to church at the Honolulu church, the community church in Honolulu, but her nephew doesn't, and she lives together with him. This is a chance for them to actually go to worship together. One, by asking him to teach her how to do this online, thereby building a relationship with something he knows.
Mm-hmm.
And in response, maybe he'll sit with her and help her through it, and thereby watch it and participate in the Zoom. So it's almost a family building moment if you really want it to. For those of us who need some help with this technology stuff, those around us who are helping us can really be part of this worship in a way that they wouldn't otherwise, or even just build that relationship a little stronger.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Now now you're doing virtual worship for two churches across the country from each other, and both very different churches.
Yes.
And so your technology is helping find a middle ground. Kind of, I see.
Exactly. And I think that's the kind of the great equalizer right now for all places of worship, is to figure out how to keep connected without propinquity. I mean, it's just one of those things that you either don't worship in this time, or you do. And I think it's really important to remember that churches thrive on maintaining tradition and resisting traditionalism.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it is doable to continue traditions even through this changed, weird virtual space, by stepping away from traditionalism, making sure that we do it the same way, not just that we do it. So having this platform and people willing to jump in and worship is exactly what makes being able to do a New England church and a new Nu'uanu, Hawaii, first generation Chinese church be able to do the same thing together.
And it sounds like you're almost starting some new type of tradition.
Yes, I think that's true. And like you said earlier, by maintaining or continuing, and even in some way, this virtual worship, I think there's something that the congregations can come and feel as if they've helped create it too. There should be some ownership around how this moves forward, because without the help or without the participation of the congregation, none of this would work. I can't do this myself. I'll be talking to myself, right? But it's because the congregation is so open and so willing to try all of these things, and the trust that's lent between them and I is huge. And so I think that that's one of the biggest things that comes out of all of this is relying on one another, trusting one another, and bringing out one another's strengths in this time.
That's all really incredible stuff. I love it. And we're just trying to. I think we're all just trying to make it through this, right? And
Yeah,
everybody needs something to help us out a little bit.
we do.
Um,
And one's faith can be very challenged in this time. And for people who are people of faith, not knowing what's next is pretty normal. But I think that one of the challenges here is that we are used to being able to be with one another as we do it. So perhaps when we do come back together, we know more about one another than we did before, that we have some more appreciation for being together and kind of a shared interest in continuing this sort of outreach.
we probably all took it for granted before, right?
Totally.
Did we ever think that something like this would happen? Probably not.
No, absolutely not.
So what are you looking forward to in the next couple of weeks? What thing has this whole situation brought to light that you're grateful for?
I am so grateful for the opportunity now that I have done several worship services with the leadership in each church. The congregation itself is starting to feel a little more comfortable with the idea of being part of that worship. So, like the young lady in Honolulu who sent me that music, now I've gotten another person or two who's maybe willing to film themselves reading the scripture or the call to worship. And the same is starting to happen with here in Swansea, that people are starting to feel more and more comfortable with the potential of being part of the worship, which might translate back when we come back together.
Yeah, I would say that once people are getting comfortable being out there, right? And
Right.
they're going to want to they're going to want to get up there when it's time to come back. I think
I
they have all
hope
the
so.
eyes on the internet. They're going to be like, okay, let's do this for real. And that's pretty awesome too, because you're like touching on all these people that wouldn't have done it before.
Exactly. And when you're in your own home and nobody's really watching as you're trying these things, sometimes it's a little easier. So maybe, just maybe, we'll have more people participating in worship online than would have thought in the past.
Yeah. I know from my standpoint, just from doing the show the last couple weeks, I'm already meeting a bunch of new people and making
Yes.
building this virtual network of cool people
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Right. Right.
Collaborating
And
with some of these people, it's pretty cool.
exactly, which sort of opens the door, like you're saying, which opens the door to people who might be worshiping with us who hadn't yet or aren't in a locational place to participate in our in-person worship. Maybe they would feel compelled to send a musical offering. If you don't have They don't have to be part of what was the body gathering to be part of the worship.
Yeah.
So I think one my hope is one of the things that not just the churches that I serve, but that the churches around and all of my colleagues might find are people who would otherwise not have even come to the building want to participate in worship somehow.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. That kind of really brings together the notion of one church, one people of faith, which is sort of the way hopefully Christianity can be moving by understanding us on this one plane.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's true.
That's awesome. Do you have any last words for us before we let you go today?
I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for the tenacity of the people who want to worship, and for you for helping us bring this word out, and just come worship, come participate, and just try anything you want to do in this time and place.
That's right, because this is the time to do it, right? So
Yes.
let's do it. All right,
Absolutely.
awesome, Holly. Well, we have some links on on our webpage for you, so you can follow your churches, and
Awesome.
we'll get the YouTube links out there so people can watch our ceremonies too.
I appreciate it. Thank
All
you
right,
so
awesome.
much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
I'm just going to have you hang out there for a second. Don't
Okay.
go anywhere till we roll the credits here. So,
Okay.
all right, folks, thank you so much for joining us today on Coffee Time with Almeida. Tomorrow we have Sunny Bean. I think she's going to make a cocktail for us. She's one of my coworkers at the Tasty. She lives in Plymouth, and she's going to be pretty fun to hang out with. She's just fun in general. And so if you like us and follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, Almeidathon. We just started posting some of the episodes on Instagram too. And now I leave you with the comic genius of Josh Bell.
It just seems weird that there's a cabin this far in the woods. Well, we keep it in the woods so that people don't see it and they don't get jealous. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Okay, I'm going to need you to go ahead and dig a hole. How come? The entrance is underground. That's fucking awesome. How big should I make it? How tall are you? 5'10"? 5'10". All set. Whew. In order for this to work, I'm going to need you to go ahead and lay down in the hole. Seems reasonable. When does the entrance open? Right now. Coffee time.